So are you going to go online?
Right now. Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Albert Snow, Holistic Gastroenterologist. Here to take your questions and give you some answers. You know, once in a while, you guys stump me, and I'll promise that any question you ask me that I can't answer, I'll find the answer. I mean, I like to think I can answer anything, but it doesn't always happen that way. I get stumped. You know, you guys are asking me a lot of questions that are making me dip into my the old memory part of my brain, and sometimes it's getting off the subject. Anything to do with gastrointestinal, I can usually answer instantly. But I'm often trying to remember stuff that's like sinuses and things like that I can fix. But I have to remember, how to do it, and I try to give brand name supplements. But some of these things I haven't prescribed for 30 years. I don't know what's out in the marketplace now, so I don't go into stores. But I'll tell you a funny thing about that. I think I mentioned a few weeks ago. We had this little store in a small town in Massachusetts, and they built a Whole Foods. It was 100 yards away. And everyone says, well, that's the end of that store. Those guys are going to go under. Well, you know, we outsold Whole Foods and supplements every single year we were there because we had the smart people. You know, not to diss the people at Whole Foods, but they're people who aren't doctors, and they're not. Make sure my phone's still on here. They're not professionals. They're people who are professional at what they do. But we just sold the pants off of them every year because we had the smart people, and some of them were like 80 years old, and they knew everything. And I was kind of like the least knowledgeable out of the whole group, and so therefore, what we found that over time, Whole Foods really thinks of himself as a market, grocery market, and you go into their, I don't know, I haven't been to some of these big ones like maybe in LA, but the Whole Foods I've seen, it's really, they don't put enough emphasis on supplements. So you go in there, you're going to get the basics. But like on my, the knowledge base that we're building, I have all the heavy stuff. The stuff like the spirulina, the Hawaiian spirulina specifically, the trace minerals, and things like that that are not, you don't find those most anywhere. And so a lot of the supplements that are popular now, I kind of brought into vogue, and they finally caught on and they became international products. But I've always been into the obscure. So when you're trying to say to me, hey, how about my toenail fungus? I have to go, okay, toenail fungus, and that's where we get into things like DMSO, which is pretty obscure. And DMSO is a cousin of MSM, and those two can help you with anything you are trying to heal if you use those two. But good luck finding DMSO. I mean, maybe it's online. I don't know, but it's fairly obscure. So I wanted to take you. Let me see if I had anything I want to do first of all before we start taking questions. I guess not. We have the most prolific chatting person we have. Is that what we call them? Is on our way with a question, and it doesn't surprise me. I had a radio show for years. We'll get with you, Saba, where years we'd open up the phones and there'd be people. The radio show was at 10 o'clock in the morning. There would be people waiting on the line at 8 o'clock because they wanted to be first, second, or third. And we all gave them all nicknames. I had different names. And so we're going to start handing out nicknames appropriate to, say, the questions that you ask. I'll find a real colorful nickname for you. So, right now we have Saba, and I am working on a question for you. I mean, a name for you, a nickname. And I'm almost done, and we'll see what you asked me for today. And we already have Mandy waiting with a question. Mandy's nickname is my favorite, okay? And we also call her Lightning Lady because if you send her a text or something, you do get an answer before your text was even finished. It's amazing. She might be psychic. Saba, since fiber and roughage aren't allowed and hurt the gut lining while healing, is it okay to extract raw vegetable juice and drink it? Is it okay to extract? Yeah, with no fiber. What about the cooked juices? Wow, those are good questions. There's a bunch of them in there. I want to make sure you're clear. I usually intend on saying this every Friday, but don't usually. Is that we don't want to make fiber an enemy. Fiber is vital. It's awesome. But when you have an inflamed bowel because you're lacking mucosal lining, you don't want to eat dietary fiber because it's much rougher than you think. You chew a salad really good, but you have no idea how rough that really is. It's like swallowing a pitchfork or something. It goes down there and it raises hell. So fiber of raw fruits and vegetables at this time when you haven't built your mucosal lining yet is no. But fiber is not our enemy. If you have a fully developed mucosal lining, eat all the fiber you want. You can eat fiber all day. It's like aspirin and things like that. They're not the problem. You're not taking too much aspirin. You don't have enough mucosal lining covering the tissue, and then you're allowing the aspirin to have there's exposure to the flesh. So it's never the thing. Now the thing about fiber, when someone say, well, you're prescribing not protein, but fiber powder. Sure, because it's milled. The companies that know what they're doing, they know what you're going to do with it. They mill it so that it's not, they take the rough edges off of it. So it's kind of like round. And that goes in and just gives you the bulk you want. And one more note about that is the fiber does not, we're not taking it just to move your bowels, move the waste out. It doesn't push the waste. What happens when the body consumes fiber, it has to go into a certain movement of the muscles moving a certain way in order to just process the fiber and move it along. And that just so happens to be the way the muscle is supposed to work. So every time you successfully take a fiber powder and it makes the bowel do that, you've just taken another step towards self-sufficiency. And the last thing about that, when you're saying, well, why are you recommending fiber? Well, at that point is to hold the stool together. It's like a sponge. It'll help form a stool. And then from there, you can develop peristaltic motion so that when you have a bowel movement, it should be 3 times a day at predictable times. I spoke to a woman this morning. She was going 3, 4, 5 times I think it was 3 times in the nighttime. That's upside down. She should be going 3 times during the day. After you eat, should have a small impulse to go. No trips to the bathroom in the middle of the day or middle of the night. 3 times a day if you eat 3 times a day. If you take a fiber powder, you have to take it at the same time every day. You can't just say, I'm going to take my fiber, because we're trying to develop consistency. The body, I know myself, if I eat lunch every day at 12, but then one day I eat it at 11, the next morning my food's calling for food at 11. And that happens with the bowel movements. That's why when you go maybe on a trip to different time zones, it's well known people's bowels get screwed up because now you're on a different clock. But when you are really have control of your bowels, nothing will throw it off. So, okay, Saba, answer your questions. Let's go back to it. Yes, you can drink juice that's been through a juicer because every juicer I know extracts the pulp. And people do eat the pulp when they don't have a GI problem. They take the pulp and they do everything with it. Throw it in their garden. They make salads out of it and do all kinds of stuff with it. But for the purpose of what you're saying, yes, that's okay. Really good question that I've never really answered, I guess. What about cooked juices? Now, we know anytime anything's exposed to heat, if it's in food and it's got fiber, the fiber is softened. It breaks down the fiber. So blending on one hand breaks down the fiber like a smoothie, but also if anything's exposed to heat, whether it be a juice or not, you break down the fiber. So if it's a juice that wasn't filtered, or the fiber taken out of it, then you say, oh, let's cook it. I don't know what juice. I don't think I've ever drank a juice that's been cooked. So I think I answered that one. Okay, our friend Darren, based upon symptoms, can you distinguish acid reflux from gallbladder issue? Yeah, I'm not a gallbladder expert other than it's really the gallbladder. More gallbladders are removed every day, and you find out afterwards it wasn't the problem. It's what is blamed. And you ask any doctor that, any surgeon. They pull their gallbladder out constantly, and they find out, oh, that wasn't the problem. I don't know of any acid reflux I've ever treated wasn't that. It was strictly this. So to just go with this on me, I'm actually thinking on 2 levels right now. The level that's important is even if it's the gallbladder and we're releasing too much bile, like the liver. Sometimes you say, oh, look at those enzymes, they're way high. If you have enough mucosal lining, not only in your esophagus, but any cell in your body, it doesn't matter how much bile or acid is in that cell or going up and down the esophagus. It's never too much acid. It's too little mucosal lining. And, it's not a bad idea when you don't know what to do, to take an antacid of some form, to take a load off. And, intermittent fasting people do. That's not going to fix anything. But while we're trying to fix things, or prior to finding me, people will just intermittent fasting just means they didn't release acid during their regular lunch period. But to answer that question more, I don't know if I have a better answer than that. It shouldn't matter if you have enough mucosal lining. I don't know enough about the gallbladder's role in anything like that. I would highly doubt that it's a problem distinguishing. I wouldn't know how to distinguish because I always bring everything back to the mucosal lining. Okay, what else we got here? Got a lot of questions today. Okay, Mandy, known as the favorite in Lightning Lady. I don't know which one we're gonna go with. Can we take more than one type of probiotic? For example, can we, the one from Moss. Okay, yeah, well, the one from Moss I use because it just really works. I don't really care. I care about most things. I look at them, what's in there, but I go by what works. And that one does work. But the answer to that is it's always good to rotate them after you've taken what I've prescribed for like at least 2 bottles, because you want it, of course, with the colostrum, and you want to get it established. Then when you take another probiotic, even though, and this is the hardest thing I've ever tried, I'm not going to fully try to explain it right now, but when you see a bottle of probiotic and you say, oh, it's got lactobacillus, it's got all these bifidus and all that, and then you look at another bottle and say, well, that's got the same stuff. Is there any difference? Yes, because these companies breed their own version of each strain. So there are companies in Europe that have been, they started off doing it for sourdough bread, but they've been breeding strains of bacteria like they do horse breeding or dog breeding, is that they been building their own strains that have their own properties. So you say lactobacillus. Wow, that's like saying a Caucasian from Yugoslavia or one from Greece. They have different cultures. They're the same basic thing, but they do different things in their life. And that's what the probiotics. So the answer is, yeah, it's good to rotate them. And don't worry about duplicating. And it's always good to consider using the product formerly, like Prince, formerly known as the artist, Renew Life or Ion Biome. For some reason I'm not getting it. Ion Biome, because that helps you activate the probiotic you have living in you. Dr. Bush, Ion Biome, I think it is. I know somebody will pick me up on that one. Dr. Bush talks about how you activate the bacteria you have living in you. So you keep on putting it in there, putting it in there, and sometimes it's just not active. And so he said that you put that liquid in there, and it activates what you have in you and rotate. Yes, so you're never going to hurt yourself by rotating. And what I do when I use rotating mostly, it's when people have sensitivities like chemical, which I don't really treat on purpose. A lot of people kind of sneak that in there. The chemical sensitivity, they go, oh, wish you'd told them that to begin with. They said they're bleeding from the butt or something. I said the chemical sensitivity doesn't cause most of those symptoms. So then I got them. I say, okay, I'm working with you now. What do? We rotate probiotics a lot with them, like certainly every month. Sometimes we take 2 or 3 at the same time. Yeah, see, so her other question was, can we take one type of, more than one type of probiotic? And for example, can we take the one from Moss with another brand? Definitely. But we don't like to do that the first 60 days. Okay, Saba, boy, Saba, we got a name for you, man. We just have to make it legal, and we'll work around that. What do you think of fasting? Is it safe to fast? Well, fasting is a double-edged sword for what we talk about on this show. Okay, is it safe to fast no water or food? Wow, no, not with water, not with no water. When your gut lining is gone or compromised, IBS gets triggered, and I get diarrhea if I fast. if I heal enough, can I fast? Well, you might be. I don't know if you're asking me about fasting for religious reasons or not, but here's the answers about fasting. You're still releasing acid when you fast. You're just not releasing quite as much in response to a meal. But you also need food to soak up some of that acid. Kind of a double-edged sword. Hey, we eat food, we release acid. Okay, but that bread you swallowed is going to soak up some of that acid, so it's not going to scorch you if you don't have enough mucosal lining. So to just go with fasting can be counterproductive if you do it too much. I want to make sure I read the rest of your question. Is it safe to fast? No water or food? My God, you got to be doing some kind of religious thing, because no one fasts without water. I mean, I know guys like Dick Gregory. Google him. He was a big faster, 90 days, 120 days, I think a year, maybe not that long. But they always drink water. Man, that's a definite have to drink water. So if you're getting diarrhea when you fast, it's because you don't have enough mucosal lining and the acid not being soaked up by the food that you consumed. Okay, we got VD. Well, I hope it's not how I determine VD, but let's see, Doc. I read on your Facebook page about giving fish oil towards the second half of the healing process. Is it because we are healing starting with the innermost layer? Okay. Is it about the healing starts with the innermost layer? I'm sorry I'm bobbling. This question is complicated. Doc, I read on your Facebook page about giving fish oil towards the second half of the healing process. Is it because we are healing starting with the innermost layer and work the way up to the serosa? Wow, he's got the serosa, VD. And I see who's lurking after that, Saba. We gotta get you, Saba. Let's see. The answer is usually because if there's any bleeding, or if I suspect there would be, fish oil is a blood thinner, and we don't want to thin the blood, you'll bleed more, even though it's not doing any damage. And I like to sometimes hold back one of my great pinch hitters. You know, in baseball, you have some of your better hitters actually on the bench waiting for that unique time. I'm oftentimes waiting, and depending on how well we're dealing with the inflammation, because it's a great anti-inflammatory, better than like things like turmeric and stuff like that, which I have kind of I have a chip on my shoulder about that one because I'm misinforming people the value of that. There's no other reason. They will be built simultaneously. That we don't have to time like by layer. You know, you put the stuff in the body, will sort it out. But I have my reasons for holding back. You know, I do what I call shuffling the deck, looking for click. Click is when you see things, a 3-day pattern. 3 days is key for me. You have, before I'll acknowledge anything, is unless you're spouting blood or have projectile diarrhea. I wait 3 days before I really acknowledge something. So you'll say, hey, I have a pain in my ass. I'll say, okay, call me in 3 days. If it's still there, then we deal with it. The same thing with healing. I need to see a pattern like 3 days before I acknowledge it and say, okay, maybe something's happening. And if we keep on going and we're not using 1 or 2 of the supplements we kept on the side, I don't care, because we're making progress. I'm always asking people, is there progress? And if it's to the point where it's so small, you say, well, I'm not sure. I say, F it. It has to be clear-cut progress. Otherwise, and we have to change things. These doctors that will say, even naturopaths, call me in 90 days. Who are you kidding? It probably should be 90 minutes. But how do they heal anybody? The answer is you can take the fish oil anytime as long as you're not bleeding. The way I do it is I do it strategically. And sometimes if someone's moving along, we'll say, don't bother with it. Could be any of the supplements. If we decide to hold back on it. And if something doesn't agree with somebody, for instance, or if we see bleeding, when we do use it, we put it on the sidelines and we say, we'll be back with you. And we do some work and then we bring it back in if needed. But I only go by, if someone's eating, someone's eating Charleston Chew candy bars the other day, a girl, and a young girl, I said to her mother, I said, how's she do with the Charleston Chew? And she goes, well, She puts it in the freezer. Remember that? If you're my age, put them in the freezer and then boom, you crack it open. I don't know if they still even make those. And they said she does good. I said, well, when's the last time she had bleeding? This date. And I said, well, was she eating the Charleston Chew? No. I said, let's go eat some Charleston Chew, maybe 2 of them, and do that all the time. It seems like heresy, but no, I go by, I don't care if you're standing on your head or standing on 1 foot or drinking whiskey. Everything's on the table. Because everything, I've healed people using most things you can imagine, whether it be candy or cookies or we're going to talk about something unique in a few minutes. I had a question that I asked on Facebook today, and I want to know if anyone has the answer. So if you think you have the answer, send us a message. Let's see. We got Kira. Saba, her answer, Saba, what is cooked juice like? Do you have any recipes for cooked fruit? Grapefruit does not taste good in a smoothie no matter what. So I was wondering what other ways one could use it. One tip, good question, good question. What thing about grapefruit juice, I'll tell you, if you want to hide something, the old days they didn't have flavored fish oil. If you don't like the taste of something, put grapefruit juice in there. That nullifies it. It's kind of a well-known thing about with hardcore health people who are always swallowing blackstrap molasses. I used to get up at 4 a.m, blackstrap molasses, and this one was liver powder. Oh my God! We used to drink that stuff, cod liver oil, and go for like 5-mile runs and then chug gallons of spirulina. So I was telling somebody the other day that spirulina turns on happy circuits in your brain. And we used to just way overdo it, make barrels. And so we used to drink it and put our head right in like an animal and just slip it right up. And then one day we're at the beach and we're probably glowing green, but we're all smiling because that's what it does, believe it or not. And a guy came up, he was going to beat us up. He goes, what are you guys up to? I said, just hang out. He says, well, what are you smiling so much for? We're happy. I said, yeah? Well, you're overdoing it. You're over smiling too much. People are getting nervous. I said, nervous? Yeah, they thought we were like some kind of hijackers or terrorists and we're going to blow things up when we're smiling. I never seen, I used to be blonde. Blonde hair, blue-eyed terrorists. I guess we come in every color, but I'm sitting there looking like you, and you pick me out and say I'm a terrorist because I'm smiling. I don't know. So, anyways, grapefruit juice. Hide anything. Okay. Now we got Saba again. Adding to Mandy's question, should you only take a certain amount of probiotic added to the colostrum, or can you add any capsule serving size? Is there a certain amount you should stop at? It's not really a ratio of so much colostrum with so much probiotic. Not really. You can take any amount. What happens sometimes with colostrum, you'll have underlying minor lactose problems you didn't know you had, and you'll start having some kind of lactose reaction that you didn't know you never had before. Also with colostrum, if you use it real lot, you put on weight. It's usually it's going to be solid weight. It's going to be muscle, and not going to become like a bodybuilder. But that's great for. I mean, you wouldn't be you'd be surprised at how many people are dying to put on weight, especially if they have inflammatory bowel conditions. We had 2 girls a number of years ago that were beautiful, but they weighed they were tall and weighed like 90 pounds. They couldn't go out on any dates or anything because, first of all, people thought they were anorexic, but they couldn't go out of the house because they couldn't stop, having, leaking waste, and so they happen to be using spirulina, but spirulina doesn't put on weight. But it actually can help you lose weight. I'll talk about that in a second. Is that colostrum will put on weight. So I told them to take colostrum along with the probiotic. I had them take a lot. And they actually got out of their predicament and they started dating and having fun. Quick thing about weight with spirulina. Spirulina balances your blood sugar level. When you have a balanced blood sugar level all the time, it's always smooth, you're going to lose weight. Because part of the weight we put on or hold on to is to do with survival. It was an advantage to be heavy, in the Middle Ages, because if there was some kind of a drought or something, you'd have a little bit more to live on. sustain you. And blood sugar level, though, spirulina, it keeps your blood sugar even. And when your blood sugar is even, the body says, we don't have to worry about about famines. We can let go some excess water, fluids, and fat, which is primarily water, and we don't have to hold on to it. So when the body feels secure, it's going to drop. You're going to drop some weight. So you're going to be smiling, and if you want to lose weight, you're going to be smiling about that. And there's more to spirulina too. It actually, what it does you see it, like if you go to a pond, you see the, in the middle of summer, you say, oh, look at all that green stuff on there, that's slimy green stuff. That's spirulina in some version of it. Spirulina is a plankton, and the family of spirulina is that it lives on the water, bodies of water, even the ocean, and as a purifier. That's what keeps your local lake from being overrun with germs, is that slimy stuff. And they considered it negative. It looks like, what's that slimy stuff? But it's needed to keep the water pure. And so when you put it inside of you, it chelates toxins. So we do hair analysis, used to do them. We say, oh, look at all that mercury and stuff in there. Take some spirulina. Oh, I thought that was for smiling. Yeah, body's gonna smile when it chelates and pulls out all that mercury and lead. So let's go back. Let's see, what do we have here? Danny retracted her question, and VD. Oh, I hate that, man. It brings back memories. VD, Vietnam War. Oh my God. Okay, here's Kira with a response. Thank you for participating. Sarah, fasting might make you anemic and make that, it might cause that diarrhea. In some instances, iron plays a part in regular, I can't read there's a marker in front of there, part in regular bowel movements, apparently. Iron. Well, iron can make us constipated. I'm sorry I couldn't read that question. I had to remove my cursor. I'll read it again, then answer if I... Saba, fasting might make you anemic, and that might cause diarrhea in some instances. Iron plays a part in regulating the bowel. It can make you constipated. Okay, iron, Floradix, FLORA-DIX, liquid iron. It's liquid. It comes from the currants, like currants, the little fruits, and other natural substances. I think some of it comes from grape juice, and non-constipating. It's available everywhere. Let's see. Cat Fleming. I don't know if that's an alias or not. Cat Fleming. Okay. It sounds like a movie star or something. Cat Fleming. If you don't have acquired bowel disease, well, we got to correct you. Acquired inflammatory bowel. No disease. But want to lower my cholesterol, or actually my undigested fat, do I need to take a probiotic and colostrum along with the red yeast? Yes. Okay, so Kat wants to lower cholesterol. Okay, now we have to define some terms. Cholesterol's a good thing. Okay, in the maybe early 70s is when it really came on strong. They decided to create a need, which was false. Oh, you have cholesterol. We're all going, what the F is cholesterol? Oh, we invented the term. Really, it's a term that's been around, but you don't know anything about it because you're just the public, and we're going to create a drug for this for a solution that's not needed. Lower your cholesterol. Okay, cholesterol is healthy fat. It's gold. The glands, the organs can't produce hormones without it, and so naturally, when you lower it, drag it out of your body, you're going to now have deficiency of hormones all over the place. And you want to, look at the commercials on TV or the literature they give you with the pills they sell you at that CVS. And I'll make it quick because we have other questions and answers. Cholesterol is when we digest our fats properly, the next step is fats to cholesterol. It's gold for the organs. It goes out to the bloodstream and goes it passes through the walls of the blood vessel because it's been properly digested, and goes off and feeds so you can produce hormones. When you don't digest properly because someone destroyed your mucosal lining with an antibiotic, which is like, we this thing that was developed over millions of years, they drop an atom bomb in there in a million billion pieces, and my job is to try to put that back together. And people bitch about it takes 3 months, it takes longer than 3 months to fix their thing. Okay, that came about today. So what you do is you have to put the mucosal lining back in with the Probiotic and Colostrum so you digest it. If you just take red yeast rice, I'll go back one step. When you don't digest the fat properly, it goes out to the bloodstream and then it hangs around because it hasn't been broken down small enough to pass through the blood vessel wall. So it hangs around there, and they said that's cholesterol. No. That's undigested fat. That's what they should be telling you. It's something to get rid of the undigested fat, not the colostrum. Colostrum, again, is needed. And so I made a comment a few weeks ago about that. Trans fatty acids. Remember they started, oh, that's bad. No more. I'm not going to cook the french fries and the fried clams and all that. Bullshit. Trans fatty acids is when a culture is weak, their gut's weak, and then they eat maybe what would be considered an inferior oil. When we have the probac in our gut and the colostrum, it'll take whatever fat we deliver to it, to the stomach, and rearrange the molecular structure and then say, hey, here's some more cholesterol. When you don't have that intelligence, that biocomputer going, it's going to say trans fatty acids, we don't know what to do with you. But since you're in our body, we're going to push out to the bloodstream, and you can loiter and let them come along and try to kick you out. So the answer is you have to take the Probac and colostrum for at least 2 months. The red yeast rice is like a snowplow. Goes through and gets rid of all the undigested fat. You'll digest your fats better from the day you start taking the supplements that will build the mucosal lining. It will then. What happens when the fats are all out of there? You won't produce anymore. There will be no more fat loitering in the blood vessels, and you're going to be so much happier. Imagine filling your brain with hormones that make you happy, and say, "Let's give me some spirulina," and also get rid of that lead that's in my brain. You know, another thing, real quick about that, just reminds me. I used to treat people, for chemical, heavy metals and things with hair analysis tests. Another one, it reminded me, this progesterone cream. See, I'm digging way deep now. Progesterone cream. There's some really good ones out there if you're having hot flashes or menstrual problems, or keep producing cysts on your ovaries and things. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I had a woman banging her head against the wall in my office, wanting to kill herself, looking for something in my office she could kill herself with. I said, sit down. I took a chance, left the room, came back and said, rub this on your wrist, and just sit there. And within 15 minutes, she was smiling and relaxed. Progesterone cream. I'll do a show. If anybody wants to hear about that, know more about it, let me know. I'm going to put it on the knowledge base. That'll be a good one for the knowledge base, because there's some legitimate stuff out there and there's bullshit. Most of you have never had real progesterone cream. Don't know anything about it. All right, get Dr. Lee's books, What Your Doctor Didn't Tell You About Progesterone. Here's What Your Doctor Didn't Tell Me About. A lot of different titles like that. Dr. Lee, I think he's dead now. That's one you're going to want to read if you're a woman at any age. Progesterone cream, you get the right stuff. Put it on the wrist, inside the wrist, just below the palm of your hand, and see if that chills you out in maybe a minute. Okay, there's a lot to that subject. Let's see. We're looking at K-Cat. Oh, we got Saba back. Oh, boy. Darren before you, though. What might oily stools indicate? Oh, not digesting fats. Got to go back and get that mucosal lining, that software built up. What do you think of veins, nerves having mucous membranes? Well, this is a sophisticated question. Let me get a drink of water here. I'm just running out of saliva just with Saba's questions. Jim Beam. Let's see. What do you think of veins, nerves having mucous membranes? Can this be affected by antibiotics? Are these affected by IV antibiotics? With my gut feeling dry, my veins also feel dry. Wow, sophisticated question there, my friend. Yes, the blood vessels are nothing but a colon, thin, intestines, Okay, they're just, all they do is instead of pushing food along, they push blood, they push red water, blue water, right? And every cell is a mucous membrane. Okay, so every cell in the body should have the insulation of the mucosal lining, and every cell is a mucous membrane. Mucous membrane. The membrane is the physical structure, the wall, and you need to have the mucosal lining protecting it. If you have pain like fibromyalgia, people come to me and say, "Oh, it's a virus," and I know it's all these. I say, "Well, just sit down, man. Take some of this Probiotic and Colostrum, reestablish the mucosal lining all through your body," and they'll say, "Well, it can't be." I said, "Did you have a lot of antibiotics?" Yeah. Every single case of fibromyalgia I've ever seen. Now, Sjogren's syndrome, which can be a lot like that, is a drying of the eyeball and vaginal drying, and that's really a menopausal problem combined with use of antibiotics. So that's a good question. The answer is mucosal lining needs to be everywhere. You put it in your body, and it does go everywhere. So if you have aches and pains other locations, they're probably going to get better or go away. Okay, GI cure. Could the GI cure, I'm trying to follow it, could a virus cause the same symptoms as IBD? No. No. Viruses of the gut, I don't know of any. I don't know of any that would cause a problem. I'm trying to think of, do I know of a virus in the gut? Anything that's, Montezuma's revenge, you go to Guatemala and you drink something or eat some weird food, that stuff's bacterial or kind of in the, they talk about parasites and things like that. Those are going to be filtered out by almost everybody's GI tract on the spot, unless you've had a lot of antibiotics. Then you don't have the software. As far as a virus, I don't know, maybe I'm having a brain cramp. I can't think of one right now. If somebody knows of a virus in the gut, I'd probably dispute whether it even exists. But no, the IBD symptoms can only be by the way I've described it over and over again. You don't want to hear it from me anymore. VD, so painful to think of VD. L-glutamine powder, the one by Moss, is on back order. Can you please recommend any other substitute brand for L-glutamine powder? The L-glutamine powder that is at Moss, I don't really know these people. I mean, I speak to them on the phone, but I've helped them design some supplements. Just say, hey, you need a better slippery elm than that, man. You need a better marshmallow than that. You got to do this, and they're smart. And for some things, I've been able to show them that the L-glutamine needs to be a certain quality. I mean, they know the qualities out there better than I do. And so there's L-glutamine, then there's L-glutamine down a couple notches. The ones down a couple notches will give you mostly what you want. You can go to a health food store and get L-glutamine powder. There's not a big difference in quality. There's some, but not a big drop-off. So if you have your choice, you go with Moss. Hey, we don't have that now. You go with any other. And don't worry about if it's whatever name's on there. Most of the L-glutamine is just L-glutamine. It comes from one source. It's like Cohen's IQ10. Everyone says, well, I'm buying this one. You get this doctor on TV saying, this is the best Q&all. Well, guess what? They all come from one place in Japan. Saba's back, man. Saba, you're a trip. They say Sjogren's is menopausal. Yes. Mucosal lining issues at a young age, like early 30s. Let's see. Try to round that question up. They say Sjogren's is menopausal plus antibiotics. Yes. Here's menopausal issue. This is why I morphed over into to the progesterone earlier. Estrogen. That's burning. That's like the sun. That's like burning. And so when that's flowing around, it can burn. It cramps and all that the women are experiencing. And when we're supposed to have progesterone, it's like say the estrogen is like the sun burning, and it's supposed to have progesterone, which is like the moon. And an eclipse, it can block the sun, right? But when you don't produce enough progesterone, estrogen is going to be dominant. And what's that mean? You get burning stuff flowing through your body, through your blood vessels into your cells. What's the answer? The mucosal lining insulation. And so you come to me and say, man, I think it's my menopausal thing. Cool. Put the insulation in there and let the estrogen flow around, do whatever it wants. Is there a second part of the question? Well, it says, is mucosal lining issues at a young age, like earlier than 30? Yeah. If you have estrogen in your body and you're taking antibiotics, you're going to have more burning. If you want to have less menstrual cramps, replace the mucosal lining. Trying to think of the term I use with my biocomputer analogy. I forget what I was going to call it, but just the wall that blocks the barrier. It's a barrier that blocks the acid. Okay, Maureen is like the stenographer. What we're gonna do, Maureen, you can answer me right now. Maureen is like trying to help me come up with a better name for the knowledge base, and a couple other names of different things. And so she is like the most thorough person on the planet. I first of all got an email. I hope you don't mind me saying this, Maureen. It's a compliment. I got an email. We're treating her daughter, beautiful girl, and she said, I thought I'd give you a little background. I had to hire fleets of people to go through it. Like, wow. And so then I was given a compliment on a subsequent email saying, wow, you really restrained yourself, until I scrolled down and there it was. And now she just sent me a message with one sentence. How did you do it? But she sent me ideas for naming the knowledge base, and what her and her husband worked on it, and what creative people. I mean, I want to use all of them. I thought I probably won't find anything on here. And then I said, these are all good. How are we going to have a meeting of how to filter this stuff out? But I hope maybe, Maureen, I'll throw out the idea right now. At some point, we can put these ideas out there, like on Facebook or somewhere like that, and say, let everybody tell us what they think is cool, because I can't decide. So your question is, I think I missed several questions between 115 and 129. I'm not sure what you mean. You mean questions on here? So ask them. We have Kaylin. My biopsy came back as colitis, but I'm having extreme constipation. Extreme, with odd colored mucus and bright red color every day. How can I eat for this to go away? How can I eat? Well, see, you got this kind of trap, right? You got like, hey, we can't have the fiber because that's going to be rough. But if we don't get the fiber, we're constipated. That's when you use a fiber supplement, like Acacia, Acacia. That's the one that I forget her name. There's a woman that's on the somebody will research this for me. The woman, what can I give you? She's the IBS lady. She sells little protocols for fixing IBS. Tammy's tummy, not our Tammy. Maybe I'm wrong. Look it up, please. One of the girls here. And Tammy's tummy, yeah. She sells Acacia. That's her trip, as far as I know. That's her trip. Is the Acacia. Why? Because it's the most gentle fiber there is. So when you're in that bind where you need, hey man, I'm going to get constipated, but I can't have the rough stuff, you go with the Acacia. Acacia. Tammy's tummy? Yeah, look that up for me. So when someone says you have colitis, that's inflammation. And sometimes, so the question I would have for you, Kaylin, is were you constipated before you developed the colitis? Or is it a function of the colitis? Because if you weren't, it means the tissue is swelling and closing down in certain areas, not letting the waste pass through. The GI doctor wants to put me on a steroid for the blood, but this doesn't seem to right, and I'm not sure how to correct this. I also have acid in my stomach causing the pain. How do I treat that? Well, to treat it is the GI cure. I mean, definitely. I mean, that's the classic case. Poster girl, right there. The GI cure. It really is. And it's $295. You go to Holistic Gastroenterology, and there's a protocol on there that's been used for 40 years. And I've done my best to pack every possible answer for you in there, meaning like, well, what if I, using it, doing great, but then I start bleeding more? There's an answer in there. If you start bleeding more, or hey, listen, I'm not constipated, but I have diarrhea now. The answer is built into the protocol. So you don't need me. In essence, you have me on your page. and you get more out of that than you do talking to me during an appointment, which they're being phased out. I'm not going to be doing appointments much longer. Everything goes to the protocol and the knowledge base. I mean, the knowledge base is something that people want. They just buy the protocol because they want to get the knowledge base, and we don't even have it a fraction of it built quite yet. I mean, that's the conversation I had just before this podcast, is that we got to build that up, and so it's worth it. $295 with everything you need to know, and you have access to me if you get stuck anywhere. That's the answer. It's the protocol, Kaylin. Hope I'm saying your name right. It's the protocol. It does work. GI Cure protocol. Danny, 3 or 4 weeks into my constipation protocol, I'm constipated again. I upped my magnesium. What else can I do? When I do take the Permeability Select, when do I take the Permeability Select? Okay, first part of the question is you up your fiber, or I believe Colon Select is in that protocol. You up that. And you can even open the capsules, or take one capsule instead of two, or open the capsules, put them in a little bit of, who knows, yogurt or whatever, and you'll find that the fiber, first step is increase magnesium, right? But that can, if you keep going and going, it can make the stool really watery, even more than soft. We want it soft but not watery. And then the order of things is increase the fiber, and then our safety valve is, hey, you know what, it's still not working. Give us the Colon Select, and that's going to like move things out and give you a fresh start. And when do I take the Permeability Select? You can take it now. I mean, I'm not sure what I wrote in there. I wrote that a while ago, or when to take that. Usually we take it early on, but there's no really wrong time to take it. Oh, yeah, you're right, Saba. Heather's tummy fiber. What am I saying Tammy for? Tammy's on my mind, I guess. Heather's tummy fiber. And if you look, Saba, you'll probably see it's primarily acacia. She's been doing this forever. It must work pretty good. Okay. GI Cure. Amoeba biasis is a parasite that has the same symptoms as IBD. Any idea how to kill parasites naturally? No, I don't. Because the strategies I know for killing that will kill your bowel. Ask from my Miss Hussey from my from the Facebook page today. She talked about using oregano oil and some of the things that will kill parasites. If you don't have the mucosal lining, it's going to destroy your colon. It's like swallowing a bunch of aspirin and you don't have the mucosal lining. I don't have an answer for that except for my ultimate answer. The mucosal lining is you're installing an immune system / digestion. Our body works by, immune system works by eating germs. And when you have the software set up internally, anything that's already in there is going to get eaten up. It's like you have a bunch of weeds and you say, you know what? We keep pulling these weeds by taking oregano oil and all this other stuff. Why don't we just replace the soil? Give it perfect soil. That's what the mucosal lining is, and weeds can't grow in it. That's how you get rid of that stuff. And then anything that enters in gets eaten. So, and I really should have led with that part of the answer, because that is the only way to go. Otherwise, you know, giving it like stuff like oregano oil, it's like my father used to pick weeds out of the garden, or more so, I'm spraying them. So you're spraying the part of the plant above the ground, and you get some short-term benefit, but you can't do that's what you're doing with oregano oil and such. I know you didn't mention that, but as an example, you're just spraying the weeds. You got to replace the soil. That's how I discovered all of this. As I was watching cattle, I was watching farmers cultivate their soil and compost and all that, and I didn't know anything about anything. So I'm like, all right, wonder if we can make something out of that, and we did. I met a guy, Zane Baranowski. He wrote the book on silver. Zane Baranowski. You can Google it. Or go to Amazon. And he said, we're walking plants. He was on my radio show a lot. We're walking plants. He said that, fertilizer is the mucosal lining. And so he was right. He wrote another book on that, too. Maureen Reuter said we had a small victory this week. This is what we do. When you come to me, And this is going to give me an opportunity to rant a little bit, and I'm going to get to some more of the questions here. We're going to go a little overtime tonight. So, small victories. You come to me and you're a disaster. Like, a guy who does auto repair. Cars will be brought in. Some were totaled. And with the car, they'll say, it's not worth it. Or someone just fender bender. They bang out that, or plastic, what do? Just replace it. But they used to be metal. Imagine that. Imagine cars were made out of metal, steel. So that's when they used to bang out the dents. So when you come to me and you say, wow, I'm bleeding, I've been taking this drug, I'm eating, I've done 5 diets, and I exercise, but I eat 7 pancakes, and that's what I deal with every day, all day. So I jump in and say, first of all, we got to find some little victories. Anything. It might be that, well, there was less blood than there was yesterday. Less mucus than there was. Hey, my mouth wasn't so dry. Anything, and say, that's in our plus column. And you'll be surprised how those things add up. And things you wouldn't have thought of, but because I'm kind of putting the pressure on you, find something positive here. And you'll say, well, I didn't have that metallic taste in my mouth. Little victory, and little victories add up to big victories. That's how people say, I'm not getting better. Well, you don't know what to look for. I still have diarrhea. How long have you been doing the protocol? 5 days? Okay, so somebody writes on Facebook today and says, questioning. It was probably an instant question, but it kind of triggered some things. Is that, hey, some people on here he said you can fix you in 90, 120 days. Some people here, it's 6 months later. Suggesting that my trip isn't valid. You got to look what I do. If I was a medical doctor, I'd have it all laid out for me. And then I have to rely on my skills, but they don't do the research. I have to start from scratch with every single person, and every time I talk to you, it's different. Every time I talk to you, your biochemistry is different. So I have to figure that out every time I get an email. I don't get emails I can answer in a minute. Some of our emails, very common for an hour. I have to figure things out. I don't go looking online. I don't read a book. And so little victories is when I tell you, you're going to be healed in 3 or 4 months. I believe it, and it happens. The suggestion was that nobody gets healed in 3 or 4 months. You know why? Because the only people who are speaking up who haven't been are the ones that haven't been. Everyone else is quiet. They're out playing volleyball somewhere. They're water skiing. They're not hanging around in this Facebook group. It's like, this is a pretty good group that's starting to turn like shit. Go on any other Facebook group about colitis, and it's all total shit. Everybody's ripping each other's esophagus out and windpipe out, and you suck. And I told you about the time I predicted I could kicked off the 6 groups using just 6 words with under 6 minutes, and it happened. 6 days in a row, boom, boom, boom. I could have had them all kicked off in one day, but what happened? Why? Because I said I can cure IBS. Not only was it the administration that ran the group, it was the people. They're miserable. So if someone says something positive, you got to be scamming them, trying to sell something. So I tell people, if you're not healed in 4 weeks, not weeks, months, are you better than you were? I've never met anybody that wasn't improved after 3 or 4 months. And now I'm going to tell you something else about that. Those are miracles. Nowhere else, anywhere. Pick me the big names, Dr. Axe, Miss Patel up in Canada, these other really smart people. They're not healing anybody. Healing as in no symptoms, no medication, no lifestyle, no dietary restrictions, ongoing. I do that every day. So for someone to come into a group and look around and say, wow, there's some people here who haven't been healed, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, because you don't see all the people who have been healed. You're 5 minutes into a group, and you don't realize, you go strolling in and you see some people have been healed. So you just assume this is easy. How come some people aren't healed? It's not easy. It's miraculous. What's miraculous about it is that it's not supposed to be possible. So if Mary Smith is 50% better but not healed after 3 or 4 months, is that a victory? Or is that a defeat? If she's 1% healed, that's a miracle. Because none of it's supposed to be possible. For someone to come strolling in an accusatory manner, say, what's wrong with this group? People are not healed after 3 months, 4, 5. That's 1% the people I treat. Okay? And how about talking about all the people that have testimonials? Maybe you should your lead paragraph should be, hey, I see a lot of really good stuff on here. So I take that personal, because I take it personal when someone doesn't know what they're talking about and establishes an opinion that begins to turn. That's what turns groups bad. And then you have someone else adds on to it. Okay, this is a really good group that's starting to turn to shit. And what has to happen? I have to check in every day. I'm not going to correct everybody getting involved in every conversation. But when people start arguing about big pharma and conspiracy and all that shit, we don't need that on that group. It's not I have my own group. And, I eviscerate anybody who comes in with that shit. I had somebody today try to put an article about, ad about ED on there. Okay? We don't need this shit on there. And so, if you come into a group that I'm involved with, this is Ryan's group, but if I'm in there, I'm going to keep it straight, meaning we're not going to go down these rabbit holes and talk about shit. Talk about stuff and say, this is my problem. Can you help me? It doesn't look like this is group for me. This group is for me. Goodbye. But people will come strolling in and they see people healed or partially healed and they say, this is easy. Hey, how come he's not healed over there? Well, there's a lot of reasons. How is that? Okay, Maureen. Again, Maureen's one of my favorites. A really creative person. Maureen, you're going to have to tell me. We're going to get on the phone and talk about those creative ideas you had, or I'm going to publish them, or I'm going to start saying them on air here and seeing what people like. Really creative person. Maureen, she's asking about powders, marshmallow, slippery elm. Is it ever okay to take them in capsule form? My daughter is a warrior, but having a gag reaction to the taste and texture. Don't forget our grapefruit juice. She was wondering. Yes, okay, the idea about, people think, oh, he's using capsules because they're more absorbable. No. I mean, powder's more absorbable than the capsules. No. It's quantity. You see, when you're trying to fix a colon, you can't measure it in the amount that comes in a capsule. That's tiny. We need to measure in tablespoonfuls. That's the quantity we need. And so Scott, I hope he's listening. He's a holistic practitioner that worked with me. I guess he was an apprentice. He was smarter than me in a lot of ways. Talk about genius with computers, my God. He measured, I think it was oil. We were talking about Udo's oil, which is a brand name. He said it takes 32 oil capsules to equal a tablespoon. I think I have it right. And I said, okay, we can do that twice a day? So to get the right amounts of the oils or the powders, it needs to be taken in a quantity that's not practical to take in a capsule. So if someone says, I just can't drink it, I say, well, how many capsules can you swallow? It's going to probably be 10 at the minimum, twice a day. And now you're at the really lower level of the therapeutic dose of that substance, and you'll just it'll slow down your progress. But, join the club. How many people? I'm always treating, I guess, at least 50 a month that I'm talking to that can't swallow the powders. So they're taking the pills and they're just tolerating swallowing extra pills and having it take longer. Well, I want to know what the victory is there, Maureen. You can't just tease us. And give us at least a general victorious description. Okay, I'll look into the GI cure, but can you give me an idea what kinds of diet I should eat for constipation colitis? No, the paleo, keto, plant-based things are just, I'll try to use those as an example on what I know of them. Probably paleo would be best for someone who has that problem. Keto has nothing to do with it. Plant-based, if you're eating only cooked vegetables, the plant-based crowd is they're like MAGA. They'll just attack you if you say that, plant-based isn't the way to go. It's not the way to go for this category. Okay, I'm going to get the cards and letters, and they're going to be picketing my house. Plant-based, plant-based. You want paleo. Why? Well, if I remember right, much of paleo is low fiber or low carbohydrate from fiber. But the idea is you want to have fiber foods that are cooked but not so much. And you want to use a fiber powder. So it's going to be emphasis on lower fiber, but some from sources like whole wheat bread, which I never told anybody they couldn't have. And people say, what about the bread? And I go, well, I never told you couldn't have it because it's cooked. But not the crazy Ezekiel type breads. You've seen that, right? They got like they got like trees in there. You know what I mean? You just want to go with a regular good whole wheat bread and cooked vegetables that are more like not totally, I'm trying to think of the word, sauteed maybe. They can have some fiber. But I'm not really the diet guy because I don't really deal with diet, but other than low fiber, that's the best I can tell you. If you want to email me, I can think about it and give you a better answer. Caught me off guard. How much colostrum and probiotics, and how would you recommend a toddler to take them after taking antibiotics? Well, okay, I guess I'm answering the toddler question, right? There's no toxic levels, okay? Colostrum is going to help a baby grow. That's why it's there, one of the reasons. When we're talking about a toddler, we will usually break it down to like a half a teaspoon. We have to make sure there's no lactose problems. So you want to make sure if they're colicky, you don't want to give it to that time because that's lactose intolerance. You want to give it to them until they establish the mucosal lining. And if you have to establish it with us doing it, we go by half a teaspoon of the colostrum, half a teaspoon of the probiotic because you can't give them capsules. And then once a day is adequate. You know, if they're breastfed, they already got it. But if you have antibiotics, boy, what a number they do on us. Huh? What a number they do. There are people out there that manufacture those things and they love it. They're smiling because the next week you're at the CVS getting Pepto-Bismol. Oh, my skin, I got acne now. You know, all that stuff. We just put it back in. The golden rule. You take an antibiotic, you follow up with a probiotic. You take a probiotic, you always take colostrum with it. Okay, let's see here. Was there another part of her question? I don't think so. Okay, Maureen, the victor was Sam faced, get my cursor out of the way. Sam FaceTimed us yesterday after previous days of tears and pain and said, I feel good today, and wanted to call for once when I feel good. I cried happy tears. No, getting me to do the same thing. That's like amazing. And we're looking for a click. We're hoping for 3 days in a row, but a little victory is one day. And then if she calls you tomorrow or you FaceTime you tomorrow, it's the same thing, another little victory. You got to count these things, man. We have some younger people who will FaceTime so I can see their skin. Well, you're going to go on that. Knowledge base. You're going to find the cure for acne. I don't take time anywhere else because it's not my deal, not my thing. I don't want to take time out of my day on this podcast to talk about how to heal acne. I have a cure for acne that's as reliable, if not more, than my GI cure. And I'm going to put that, I'm making a note right now to put that on the knowledge base within the week. If you're interested and you're already bought the 295 protocol, go on there and you'll see it appear probably maybe even over the weekend. That sinuses, I love that one too. When people have polyps in the sinus, I can fix that. Okay, Saba's back. Looks like Saba's doing some baking. Whole wheat bread also scratches my gut. Okay, go with Wonder Bread. You need some bulk. You just need something to go in there. Okay. Yeah, so the answer is just keep going soft. Danny. Oh gosh, could the colostrum be making me constipated? Yes, it can. It can if you have a sensitivity to lactose. People think of other symptoms of lactose intolerance, but it can cause, has someone else today. Same problem. It can cause constipation. Not mostly, but it does happen. So it has been constipated for decades. Should I switch to a non-lactose colostrum? Yes, if you can find it. You know, if you can tolerate taking colostrum for a little while, that's soil, and it's glue. And there'll be enough in there to cultivate the bacteria to grow a nice garden. So you can get away with taking it for a while and maybe put on a couple pounds or whatever the symptom may be, and get it in there, then not taking it anymore, or taking a very low dose. So what we do is we dose it. We take a pinch of it and put it in some water, and then it dilutes it like colloidal silver. And it reminds me I have to answer our question from the Facebook, and dilute it, and you'll be getting in you. You don't need a lot of it; just need its influence. Okay, Kira, how about Kaylin? Does all disease start in the gut? No, but a lot of it does. Okay, I want to answer the question. We're going to stay until we run out of questions with people, but the question I asked on Facebook today. What is? I had a note. Where is my note? What is the best cure, homeopathic cure, natural cure, for remedies for cuts, poison ivy, and warts? Okay, I don't know if I got any answers anywhere on Facebook or not, but so you've got a cut, abrasion, poison ivy, and my own story I'll tell you in a minute. Maybe even some kind of you cut yourself severely. And what can you do that's within reach? Nature provides, if you get poisoned by a plant or get poison ivy or something like that, always, amazing, there'll be something, the antidote will be in reach. The antidote, you swallow some, I ate that thing, and berry, the answer to the antidote to it will be in reach of whether you pick the berry. Imagine that. So what's the remedy that's within reach of us, very much in reach? So I'll tell you my story, and then we'll tell you what it is. I went up to Maine. I used to like extreme dangerous circumstances and put myself in, and I went to Maine by myself and doing some extreme stuff, and I severely cut 2 fingers, and I thought I'm gonna lose these fingers, man, by myself, and I get my shirt off and my pants and trying to do tourniquets, and so these guys come up and they go, "What's the matter?" And they were like Indian guys, way up in northern Maine, and they spoke French, but we spoke enough English. It was like, "What's wrong?" I said, "Well, my hand, man," and so they said, "Oh, no problem." This is what they told me: piss on it, spit on it, and they had some coffee grinds. And you put coffee grinds on there, believe it or not. And it stopped bleeding. It was bleeding severely. It stopped bleeding within a minute or two. And so I started chugging water so I could piss a lot and produce saliva. And I kept peeing on it and sticking the coffee grinds into the where the cut was. And it healed up. And I didn't need stitches or anything because I wasn't available. I stayed where I was on my trip, and I just kept pissing on it. And it healed really quick. Like in 3 or 4 days, it was like, wow, gone. And I found out that if you get poison ivy, remember, folks, you heard it here first. If you piss on it, it'll go away faster. Spit on it. How about warts? You like warts? If you don't like warts, piss on them. Frequently, spit on them. Don't wipe them off. And anytime I don't even drink coffee, but coffee grinds, if you have them around and something like that happens, or if you just want to get rid of your warts or poison ivy, just mush it in there. Just mush it in there, okay? And you'll be surprised. That's the most basic cure I've ever seen. Think about how primary that is. So that's a good one. Try that one. Okay, Saba's back, man. Me and Maureen not only going to think of a name for the knowledge base, we're going to think of a name for you. Is it true that too much slippery elm can stop or reduce nutrient absorption? That one comes up sometimes. No. Do I need to, not for our purposes, do I need to be careful in how much to take? Well, the only time to be careful is that sometimes it seems to cause diarrhea. And we're trying to fix the diarrhea. But no, there's no limit other than what I just said. I've never seen if there's some that comes up. It comes up as a subject. I've never seen it affect our healing. Got to remember, I'm always bringing stuff back to my specialty. Okay, what else we have? Kaylin asked a disease question. How about Kira? Do you have to take Probiotics and Colostrum on an empty stomach so they stick together all the way down, or does it? How does that work? Any supplement that I prescribe, and again, I'm the only one that does this, says this. You take not an empty stomach. That's something that always gets superimposed upon what I actually said. It's you need to have no food or drink for a half hour before or a half hour afterwards. So there's not a lot of crowd in there trying to do their thing and get digested and out to the bloodstream. So same with those supplements, those two, half hour before, half hour afterwards. And again, not 30 minutes. It could be 35 minutes, 45 minutes, just not closer than 30. Let's see, what is it too much? Okay, here's another one. What is colloidal silver good for? Wow, what a subject. If you wanted to really speed up the piss and all that, you add colloidal silver. Colloidal silver is a natural antibiotic. Kills out viruses, bacteria, fungus, yeast, and bacteria. Doesn't kill off the good stuff. You got to have that in your back pocket wherever you go. Why? First sniffle. If you're coming down with a cold, you chug some of that, spray some, you have a nasal spray in it, it's going to kill off the germs that will kill a cold and virus, like a flu. And don't get into the COVID virus with me. I don't know. I'm not going to answer any questions about that with the silver. But anything. Jock itch. Okay? I'm just trying to think of things that people use it for. Poison ivy is another one. It does not, what we don't want to do with colloidal silver is if we're really infected, like we're sick, go get an antibiotic. The silver's not going to take care of it if you're really sick with something that's got a hold of you. Because an antibiotic is really, it's an unnatural thing, so it has unnatural strength. And so if we just try to live with penicillin, we wouldn't be here. Those are the original probiotic created by antibiotic created by nature. You need these antibiotics now in our culture, but you use colloidal silver up to the point where it's not working. Ear infections. Check out ear candling. How's that one? Ear candling. Ever heard of that one? You lie on your side, someone lights a cone, hollow in the center, and lights it on fire, and the draft it creates pulls the waste out of your ears. That's a wild one. I fix ear infections by squirting the silver in the ear and then soaking a little cotton ball and packing it in there. Now that'll do it if it's based on an infection. But that's such a massive subject. I'll have to talk about that exclusively, and I know that I'm creating a audio file for that in the knowledge base. Another good reason to go there. Does colloidal silver affect the gut lining? Yes, positively. The last one. I'm getting a signal. I got to go here. So, the thing about colloidal silver, it doesn't kill off the bad guys. What it will do, it doesn't kill off the good guys. What you do is you have bacteria all over you that's sort of neutral. It's not so much bad, not so much good. It's kind of in the middle. It's just in the way. So when someone heals rapidly, it's because they found a way, or maybe genetically they don't have as much of the kind of quasi guys. When you use silver, it kills off or diminishes or somewhat the quasi guys, so that they're out of the way. It just clears the roadway. It's just like, okay, folks, we're coming through, and kills off the guys that we don't really need. They're not bad, they're not good. And so that's one of the ways the silver works, and it gives the body access to the tissue it needs to heal by getting rid of the obstacles. That's it for today. I answered my question, and if you have any other questions for me, I have a radio show that is a little more racy than this here. We talk about more racy subjects. If you're into raciness, you want to go there, and it's on your screen, the radio show. I do a podcast, which is another whole level of things, a little more focused. But if you're into stories, if you're into odd ways to explain how to heal things, obscure strategies, strategies I invented or I know about, things that you're not going to hear on this Q&A, it's the radio station. You're likely to hear me either singing or playing the drums or anything like that. And if you want to have fun, you go over there. Okay, Saba. Sandy, you got your last question, Sandy. Can inflammation suddenly happen, or is it a gradual thing? Gradual, except for if you take a drug like Cipro. Cipro wipes out. You want to talk about getting pan-colitis, which means all over the GI tract? Take Cipro. Flagyl. What do they call those? Z-Packs. Yes, that way it takes all the mucosal lining out right away, first tablet, and then you're left with blowtorches of your own acid. But typically it develops over time because your mucosal lining doesn't get taken away like that in most cases. It comes gradual from the different times in your life you took an antibiotic, and then the antibiotics that are in our environment chip away at it. So, it develops slowly in most cases. Go get some, if you want rapid inflammation, get some Cipro. Kat, sorry if you recently answered this. How is red yeast rice better than statins? Okay, because the red yeast rice isn't dragging cholesterol out. It's dragging bad fat. That's what's happening. It's dragging the red yeast rice is taking the bad fat out, not cholesterol. Okay, ask me about LDLs. I don't worry about LDL because the probiotic will figure that all out for you. When it spits out that grimy grease you got at the carnival in you, it makes a perfect fat molecule called colostrum that will have the proper balance of LDL, HDL. If you take probiotics, you don't have to worry about that. Okay? So that's it for today, folks. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next Friday. So long.